Drama in WWE land. What's going on, guys? Welcome to your WWE Raw review for May 16th, 2022. And we had some interesting developments as the show was going on tonight. WWE had to quickly pivot and change their plans for the main event because a couple of pieces of talent walked out, namely Sasha Banks. Apparently, Naomi followed her out the door, and WWE had to change up their scheduled, I guess it was a six-pack challenge to determine who will face Bianca Belair at Hell in the Cell. And apparently Sasha Banks did not like the creative direction of the match, voiced her frustrations, stood her ground. WWE stood theirs. And according to WWE's statement that was released just a little while ago, Sasha and Naomi went into John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases packed and put the belts on the table and walked out of the event. So WWE had to basically call an audible here. They ran a segment on Raw tonight that I assumed was just the old man changing his mind last minute again, like he tends to do. We saw Becky Lynch confront Adam Pearce. The two of them start talking, and they mention that Sasha and Naomi have left the building. So I kind of thought Vince either changed his mind, maybe we had a positive COVID test or something like that, and they had to change something quickly, but they didn't even advertise anything for Raw tonight until like an hour before the show. So they advertised the match, and then something happened during that time, and I guess right when the show started is when Sasha and Naomi left. So we'll try to speculate a little bit on that as we go here, but that drastically changed the main event, and in the segment with Becky and Pierce, he basically made Becky versus Asuka one-on-one, scrapped the entire six-pack challenge, and the winner of that match will now face Bianca Belair at Hell in the Cell. We saw the main event end just a minute ago. Asuka got the win with the green mist. She heads now to Hell in the Cell to face Bianca Belair for the title, and now we are left to wonder and speculate and talk about what the hell is going on with Sasha Banks and Naomi. So interesting developments here. This is all very, very new information. So you're not going to hear any sort of, smugness out of me. This is definitely the way it's going, or they were unprofessional, or they were this, or it's a work or not. I'm going to say right now, based on my wrestling fan instinct, I'm going to say this is not a work because it's not like WWE to release a statement talking about match rehearsals and shit like that. If this was a work, they're basically breaking kayfabe hardcore with their statement, even though it did kind of seem like that with Corey Graves making a couple of comments tonight about their unprofessional behavior, kind of like the Austin took his ball and went home, which really honestly is like the 20th anniversary of that, like just in a couple of weeks, which is kind of interesting. And Sasha Banks has had history of kind of leaving the company before. I think she's had two spells where she's been gone for an extended period. Many fans have speculated on the status of Sasha Banks once her WWE deal runs out. It doesn't seem like she really wants to stick around there. She's had bouts of unhappiness before, and maybe this was something where it just boiled over. We have no idea, but I just put on Twitter a little while ago because I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of very aggressive opinions about this all over social media. But the fact is there is a line that between, being professional and, doing your job, doing what the company asks you to, fulfilling your contract obligations, stuff like that. And there's a line between that and just being fed up and saying, no, I'm sick and tired of being a pawn in your ridiculously fucking stupid, nonsensical, creative clusterfuck bullshit that is the day-to-day operations in WWE. Because it's bad enough for somebody to give you their time. Your time is valuable enough, but when you give somebody your body, and these writers just on a whim, just write the most ridiculous shit and put wrestlers in the ring to do completely meaningless matches, wear and tear on their bodies, and they start and stop shit. They don't even know if people are going to be a heel or babyface tonight. We saw Lacey come out tonight as a babyface after she was kind of rumored to be a heel last week, but then they ran 5 vignettes of babyface sympathy promos for her. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. So eventually, talent is going to get fed up. And when you have talent high enough on the roster that they can say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. That's fucking stupid, poorly thought out, and you're not going to use me in this bullshit. And I actually appreciate when talent gets themselves to a spot that they can actually do that. Now it remains to be seen what the real story with Naomi and Sasha is here. Maybe Sasha was being a complete baby. Maybe what WWE was asking was totally reasonable and Sasha is in the wrong. Fair enough. Maybe we'll come to find out that's the case. But my instinct tells me, based on how horrible WWE is from a creative aspect, how they just don't know what they're doing. They have no plans, no direction. They start things without even knowing how they're going to finish them. They got Roman Reigns walking around with 2 titles right now that they have no plans on unifying. They have a unification match this Friday on SmackDown for the tag titles. They also probably don't intend on keeping permanent. So this company literally makes decisions by the seat of their pants. And if you find, and if a piece of talent finally gets sick of that and says, no, this is fucking bullshit, I'm not doing it, I am very much going to support that talent 9 times out of 10. So it remains to be seen what the true story is here. I'm sure more information will come out on Naomi and Sasha as the days go on. Fightful Select has already had a couple of articles up on this confirming that they did actually walk out. Some of the talent did confirm that they were gone from the building. WWE released a statement just about an hour ago right here, and you can read it right here. It says, when Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand, placed their tag team championship belts on his desk, and walked out. They claim they weren't respected enough as tag team champions. Are any women's tag team champions respected as tag team champions? The titles have been a fucking joke since they were created. Goes on to say, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, that's the part right there that tells me this isn't a work. They claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with 2 of their opponents, even though they'd have matches with those 2 individuals in the past with no consequences. So that entire fucking paragraph right there doesn't scream work to me. Not in WWE sense, anyway. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event. So none of that statement really sends up any work flags for me. You know what I mean? This seems like it might have been a knee-jerk reaction to WWE's frustration. I think the line that Corey Graves said might have been fed to him by Vince. Make sure you let the audience know that they were unprofessional. They released a hasty statement as soon as it happened, you know, saying that you're required to fulfill your contract obligations and it's unprofessional to walk out. So they're already, you know, trying to get it out there that they were unprofessional. Now, if this was anybody else other than Sasha, you know, maybe I would be a little less skeptical. I would automatically take, the talent side. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Sasha's back on this too, but we should wait and hear all the story, the whole story first, because Sasha does have a history of this, of kind of getting frustrated and wanting out. But I'm glad that AEW is around to at least create that environment of there's more than one place to go, to let the talent know that they don't have to be slaves to these assholes and their stupidity. Slave might be a strong word, but I'm saying slave to their creative process. You just have to go along with whatever the fuck they say. And sometimes that can be frustrating. And AEW, their presence, I was under the assumption when AEW started that their presence was going to force WWE to do better creatively, because that's what happened last time we had competition. WCW came along and WWE really had to step up their game. But competition has changed now. You don't really beat your opponent that way anymore. You don't beat your opponent by putting on the better show, because the better show is in the other company most times on Wednesday nights than anything we see on Mondays and Fridays. How you beat your opponent now is just by making as much fucking crazy money as you can, and these ridiculously obscene TV deals and Saudi Arabia deals that WWE has is bringing so much profits and revenue into the company. They don't give a rat's ass if they're putting forth any sort of creatively interesting content at all. They don't care. So maybe having competition out there can help the show in another way. Maybe WWE can realize we can no longer just pull shit out of our ass and send the talent out there to do it. We might actually have to, think a little bit before we write some shit. And maybe that will then force them to be a little bit more, just a little bit more sympathetic to some of these characters, and just don't send them out there to do anything. Realize that all these men and women have careers. They're trying to make it. They're trying to succeed. And, every time this company just writes a bunch of nonsense, wrestlers run the risk of losing steam, getting released, that sort of thing. So WWE, this has been a problem with WWE for a long time. I mean, it's not the first time a piece of talent has had a problem with what they're doing creatively. And this is across the board in all companies everywhere. From the beginning of the time, this has always been an issue. But with WWE, it seems like the beast is so big, the monster is so big now, that they really just truly don't care what kind of content they put out. You can feel that. You can feel that on Raw and SmackDown. It's just formulaic nonsense. You in your head, you know how it is. We've all been, conditioned to WWE's programming. We know what they're going to say before they say it. We know commercial breaks are coming before they come. We know when a promo is going to get interrupted before it gets interrupted. We can see everything coming 70 fucking miles away. And it's time for a change on that shit, I know it's hard when you got a 3-hour show and a 2-hour show live every week. You can fall behind, and it's hard to really, really be creative, where on AEW's side, you see Wednesday nights, and they really seem like they put a lot of thought and effort into their card, pretty much announcing the entire card the previous week, building that on social media during the week and on Rampage and anywhere else they can, and making these shows like little miniature glorified pay-per-views, or under-glorified pay-per-views, I should say, where WWE is just like, let's just do this tonight. There's a big difference from a creative standpoint. So, I could be reading way into this. I don't think what Sasha Banks did here is going to start some sort of a trend of WWE getting better or anything like that. It's just, if the fans are frustrated with WWE's creativity and their creative direction and their writers and their storylines and their stupid angles and their start and stop bullshit, not knowing who's heel and face, starting angles, not knowing how to finish them, that type of thing, if as frustrated as we are, imagine how the talent must feel. Imagine how the talent must feel to travel brutal schedules, and go to the arena at fucking noon that day and sit there all day, 2 hours in hair and makeup, to go out and do the stupidest fucking thing for 30 seconds. Many wrestlers probably consider what they have a dream job, but probably some don't. Someone's like, I'm just wasting my life. I'm wasting the best years of my career doing this ridiculous nonsense. Unless you're a top tier guy like a Cody who's coming in, who probably is very hands-on with his direction, or you're a Roman Reigns, or you're maybe the top 2 to 6 wrestlers in the company, you're fucked for the most part in that place. And we've been voicing our frustrations, here on the podcast and on social media and in the chat for years and years and years when it comes to the stuff from WWE. So in terms of what happened here, according to the report by Fightful, the plan for the 6-pack challenge was actually to have Naomi go over. Now, I don't know if that's really the case or not, or if that's true. A lot of fans are pointing out, why'd Naomi leave if she was booked to win the match? I don't know. I would assume that maybe it's not her. I think the issue was with Sasha, and when Sasha had her issue, maybe, although this WWE statement is kind of outing both of them here, but, if it's Sasha that had the problem, refuses to do the match, and then WWE just scraps the whole thing and Naomi is no longer needed, then maybe Naomi left with Sasha to support her. I don't know. But WWE made it sound like they both had an issue with it. And if Naomi was scheduled to win this match, maybe they were going to do some sort of a split, maybe not a split, but maybe some dissension between them, because WWE likes to split up teams before they even get rolling. So now that Sasha and Naomi are champions, maybe they're already going to tease some splitting here. That's what would lead to Naomi winning. Maybe Sasha and Naomi took exception to this. Hey, let us have a run with these damn things before you split us up. This is too early. And a lot of fans will say, well, why is Naomi walking out when she was supposed to win? I'm going to tell you right now, if Naomi was scheduled to win this match tonight, she was not, and I mean not, going to beat Bianca Belair for that title, Hell in a Cell. So Naomi probably knew that, figured it wasn't worth damaging or splitting up the team just for her to go to Hell in the Cell to get beat by Bianca. It's an interesting match. It would be a babyface match. I don't even know who the fans would want to cheer for, because the fans like both of those women. But I would assume that Bianca's going to continue her run since she just won the title at WrestleMania. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. All I'm here is to speculate and talk about it or whatever, and offer you whatever opinions I can. But that's the situation tonight heading into Monday Night Raw, and they had to make some changes in the main event, and we'll get through all the results here in just a minute. I just wanted to offer those early thoughts on the Sasha Banks WWE drama and Naomi apparently, and we'll really monitor this to see if we get any more news here either tonight or sometime tomorrow. So that's what's going on there. I have not even said hello to anybody in the chat yet. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. If you're not a subscriber, please do. We're up here a good amount of Mondays. Whenever the show is decent, I'll come up here and do a review. We're here every Saturday for our Winged Eagle podcasts, Sundays for classic pay-per-view watch-alongs or current pay-per-view reviews, and every Wednesday for Dynamite watch-alongs as well, and special episodes, mic drops in between. I've got an Over the Edge 1998 review coming to the channel this week. That one was really fun to rewatch, and that'll be hitting the channel soon. So that's what's coming to you in the near future. So subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. I would appreciate it. Let me cruise to the chat. Just say hello to everybody that was here waiting for me, like Zane, Nick Musser, Rarely Even, Rodrigo, Max, Divine, Rick's in the house. Lots of monkey wrenches. Holy shit. Jet the Hawk. We've got Zane. We got Nick Musser with the happy birthday. 27 years young. Halfway to 54. Holy shit, dude. Right on. You're inching closer to 30. Happy birthday to you, my friend. Glad you are here. JJ Leg in the house. Kevin, Ashley, Beetle, Deshaun, Ramon, Sam, Victor. Who else we got? Destiny is here. Ben's here. Leland Gaunt. Trey Williams, what's up? Big J Sonic Plays, Latre, AJ, Chris, Michael Cuomo, I think I got you already. Timothy, we got George Morris dropping $5 in the chat. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? And how is Bub? Raw 0 out of 10. Who walked out? Stray cat just ran in my apartment and is fighting with my 4 cats. That's, get a handle on that. You're able to type all this out and super chat in the middle of a cat fight, literally in your living room. You are a multitasker. Bub's hanging around and hanging in there just fine. And 0 out of 10 for Raw tonight for you, huh? I ain't going to give it a 0, maybe a 4. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to give it yet. Everybody else that's here, Malk Gooley, we got Mongolian Chop, Matthew in the house, Barry is in the house, so's Jose. Jinky Maru is here. Rarely Even. Right on. We got a lot of people here. I don't want to take too much of your time up. Carlin would have hated Ben Shapiro. Thank you for, yeah, he would have. Thank you for the $2. You and Salamonster should do a show together. We will one of these days. I'm certain of it. I just suck at reaching out and trying to get things done. Steve and Scott, appreciate the 5 from you as well. Good mic work. What if Sasha Banks shows up to AEW like Scott Hall did in 96, or if Sasha and Naomi goes to AEW, they should have taken the belts with him. None of that's going to happen because they're both under contract, so WWE isn't going to just cut them free to go and do whatever they want, especially after they've walked out the way they did. So I think WWE... I don't think we're going to see Sasha or Naomi in AEW anytime soon. At the very least, they are going to have to just wait out their contracts. If they just refuse to work and WWE releases them, they've either got some sort of no-compete, or WWE just keeps them around and lets them sit their contract out, or even, adds time to it due to them not being active. But in terms of then showing up there, you can't. They can't just go there. You'd be all sorts of fucking lawsuits and shit. WCW tried to pull some shit with Sable, putting her in the front row and tried to play it off like, oh, they didn't know she was going to be there or whatever, when we knew better. So that's not something I think would be worth AEW trying to do. I don't think Tony Khan's that kind of businessman where he's going to say, yeah, come on our show and let's just worry about the consequences in court. That's not something you want to do. So I don't think it's going to be a situation like that. It would have to be some sort of a meeting where WWE is okay with just releasing them, and even then you're talking 90 days before they're able to appear anywhere. So I'm not really thinking that that's realistic with Naomi or Sasha. I don't even know what the deal with Sasha's contract is. I know she's had some Hollywood aspirations, and there's been a lot of fans and a lot of people speculating that whenever her deal is up, you guys might know, I don't, that she could bounce. She could just get out of there and leave altogether, which I think would be fine. I think Sasha Banks should get out of there for a while. It just seems like the system is wearing on her, and I wouldn't blame her at all. Just taking a little break, get out of WWE for 5 years, go wrestle somewhere else, go make movies, have some fun, and either come back or don't. It's the way I'd look at it. David Brown, good to see you, my friend, and everybody else who's been popping in since then. Barry, I don't know if WWE would sue them for not working. I don't know how contracts work. I mean, you breach of contract, yeah, if you refuse to work, you'll be in breach. I don't know how that works in terms of what they would have to pay back for the company or anything like that. I'm sure it's all written in the language there in the contract, but I ain't no contract reader or lawyer, so I don't know what the hell goes on, but we're going to find out sooner or later. So, yeah. That's what's going on. So I guess we should get into Raw tonight, or should we? Because since we're on some very, very interesting, on the subject of some very interesting news, we've got some more interesting news. As many of us have heard this week, Ric Flair has been claiming he's been training for an in-ring return. Apparently there's even some footage of him working out with Jay Lethal, which I have not seen. And that rumor was confirmed today. It was announced that Ric Flair will actually be returning to the ring SummerSlam weekend. I think at the StarCast convention, he's going to be in a tag team match against, get this, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I don't know where it was recently that I heard that Ricky was not in great health. He's got to be in better health than Ric Flair. I mean, when he came back and had that little mini run for a couple of months there in 2009, he looked incredible. Had that match with Jericho on pay-per-view and stuff. But Ric Flair returning to the ring, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. He is in his 70s. He was in a coma a couple of years ago. He has even said that he wants to either die in the ring or die under a woman. Yikes. And this makes me terrified. Now, Ric Flair obviously isn't going to be working a really, really heavy physical match or anything like that. This thing isn't going to be 30 minutes. He's not going to be taking any massive bumps, at least I don't think, or I hope not. He'll probably bleed and he'll probably cry, but hopefully he'll be very, very protected. I think this is idiotic, to be honest. I have no interest in Ric Flair getting in the ring. I think this is a very, very disturbed man. It's sad to see him like this, just so unwilling and unable to just relax and enjoy your career for what it was. And he just continues to party, continues to live on the road. He literally doesn't know any other way. He's like the reverse Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption, who doesn't know any other way other than prison life. He doesn't know any other way than the wild life. He can't sit on his ass and sit at home. He can't do it. He can't barbecue out in the backyard with his family, sit on the back deck with his friends and drink a beer and talk about past times. He can't do that. He's got to be out, fucking bling-blinging with rappers and shit. He's insane. And I don't think there's any reason for him to be getting in the ring and stumbling and bumbling around in there at this age. I think it's dangerous. It's, I don't know what the point of it is, what it's going to solve, what type of closure it's going to give him. I have no idea. If it does go down legitimately as his last match ever, I think there's a little bit of that could be cool. Wow, he had his last match when he was 72, worked with one of his longtime opponents. But in my mind, he should have had his last match in 2008 when he ate that super kick from Shawn, and Shawn told him he loved him. That should have been it. Should have never gotten his fucking wrinkly ass in the ring again. But here we are, 2022, and this fucker is about to wrestle. So normally I'd be against this, completely against this, because Flair is fucking crazy. However, former WCW announcer and current douchebag fuckface Chris Cruz, who has already made a huge stink about an AEW event a couple years ago in Maryland, has now made it his personal mission to block Ric Flair from getting in the ring because for some reason, Chris Cruz, who everybody forgot about, nobody gives a shit about, has a huge problem with shit that's going on in wrestling. This invisible old jackoff who apparently is just bitter and angry about everything. And he's like Phil Mushnick, just won't shut the fuck up ever. So now he has a huge problem with Ric Flair getting in the ring, as do I. But I hate Chris Cruz so bad that not only do I want Ric Flair to wrestle, I want him to wrestle in an Iron Man match. I want him to win the match with a top rope Canadian destroyer. Fuck you, Chris Cruz. So I hate that guy. So just based on the fact that Chris Cruz is against this makes me for it. You know what I mean? If you're watching Chris Cruz, fuck you, you fucking prick. Anyway, let's get on to the Monday Night Raw results for tonight. Like I said, big changes to the main event, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But the show opened up with the big advertised cage match between Bobby Lashley and Omos. Now, this was the only match advertised for Raw prior to the show. Even like an hour before the show, I was like going to throw up a thumbnail, and I'm like, do they have any fucking matches announced besides this one? And they didn't. It was just right before the show that we finally heard anything about what was going on here. So we knew we were going to get the cage match this week. This match opens the show. Omos and MVP come to the ring first, and MVP cuts a promo before the match starts. Then Lashley does his big podium entrance. It's a very, very heelish entrance for a babyface. And as he's making his way to the ring, he's attacked by Cedric Alexander to get a little bit of an advantage early on. He's tossed in the cage. They also make it known to the audience and us at home that you can win the match, pinfall, submission, or escaping the cage. Sometimes you can win by escape, sometimes you can't. So that told you something was going to be up there, that you could escape the cage. That actually made me happy that neither one of these guys are going to take a pin in the ring. Now, there was also a report earlier on in the day, I think also from Fightful, that there was a pitched idea to do one of those, collapsing ring spots like they've done with Brock and Big Show in the past, and that was nixed. However, you still knew they were going to try to do something. There's a cage there, so something could break. I was waiting for something to break the whole time. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Cedric continues to attack, by the way. He attacks Lashley, continues to interfere in the match after he attacked him on the outside of the ring. But Lashley wound up winning with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre finish when Paul White threw Austin through the cage and it gave way and he fell to the ground, feet hitting the ground, and of course he wins. So they did the same thing here. Omos picks up Lashley and throws him through the cage, and of course it breaks and he falls and he wins the match. But there's kind of a delay there, like the announcer's like, what happened? Was he the winner or whatever? I'm like, of course he's the winner. You guys know the rules. They've even done this finish before. And then the referee has to go over to the ring announcer and explain what happened. And the ring announcer actually says like these words to the audience, like, we're all fucking for. And he goes, despite the unique way this match has ended, the referee has told me that both of Bobby Lashley's feet have hit the floor. Therefore, your winner is the almighty Bobby Lashley. Did you need to say all that shit? Could you imagine after Austin beat Vince at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, if the Fink got on the mic and was like, despite the unique way this match has ended, give me a fucking break. Do you have to spell everything out for us? My God, you made such a big deal in the instructions of the match that you can win by escaping the cage with both feet hitting. The announcers repeated this 16 times during the fucking match. Then Lashley gets out of the cage, his feet hit, and then they're like, what happened? Fuck. So anyway, Lashley wins, and Omos is protected by not taking another pin, which is good, and that's what we got there. So I don't know if they're going to attempt to put these two guys in the cell. I don't think so, because we're going to get Cody and Seth in there. But I guess we're going to get maybe one more blow-off before this bullshit's over. But we opened with a cage match, and Lashley got the win. After that, we had a match between Theory and Ali, and Theory comes out there. He gets on the mic and tells Ali that you thought you were going to be working with me. Psych. You're going to be working with Veer instead. Well, actually, I should rephrase that. First, he announced that there's going to be a special referee for that match, The Miz, again. So The Miz comes out there in his referee shirt and his ridiculously tight, stupid, short dress pants with no socks, which I hate. And then Theory announces that not only is The Miz the guest referee, but that he's not his opponent. Veer is his opponent. So Veer comes to the ring. Pretty sure Veer's favorite song is Come On Ali. And he came on him hard and wound up tapping him out. And Theory gets in the ring and takes a selfie with all three of them. So it's Miz, Veer, and Theory taking a selfie with Ali. And then Veer goes to the outside, I guess, to continue the attack, and he starts messing up the announce table, I guess, to do a table spot. And that's when Rey and Dominic, the Mysterios, return, who are also kind of put on the sidelines by Veer. They come down to the ring and they back Veer off and kind of save Ali. So I would assume next week on Raw, that's going to be our triple threat, Ali and the Mysterios against those three jackoffs. Look for that next week. Then we had that backstage segment that I was barely paying attention to. It's just Adam Pearce back there. Becky approaches him, bitching about something. I'm not even listening, but I do hear Becky say Sasha and Naomi left the building. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. They're supposed to be in that main event. And then Pearce says some shit and basically just says, what we're going to do is have you. And I don't even think Becky was in the six-pack. Was she in the six-pack challenge? I thought she was. Maybe she wasn't. We're going to have you versus Asuka, and the winner of that match now will face Bianca Belair at Hell in the Cell. And I'm like, well, that's weird. But again, I thought nothing of it because WWE changes their mind every 5 seconds. The kooky ass old man, you can have the show happening and he's just changed his mind about something. So I thought they had to call an audible to alter their main event to appease, the psycho that runs the joint. And that's all I thought it was. Thought nothing of it. Vince changed his mind again. What else is new? More at 11. And then we start hearing rumblings on social media that, no, there's some legit thing that happened. PW Insider put something out, I think, and then Fightful released a small statement on it, and then Select had something up on it, and apparently this was confirmed that there was some sort of a disagreement, and Sasha Banks spoke to Vince McMahon and Jordan Laurinaitis, apparently, and they didn't budge, or Vince didn't budge on his creative stance, and Sasha didn't budge on hers, so they opted to leave. So they can't force you to go out there. They can't physically throw you out there into the ring. So if you don't want to work, you're not going to, you don't have to work, I guess. So they have left the building, and then WWE, of course, released that statement that I showed earlier. And the entire main event now has been changed. So we'll really have to see if there's any more new information about Sasha and Naomi walking out and the statement. I don't see anything new yet other than what we know so far. So that was the segment that they used to basically explain the changes to the main event. Really weird. Then after that, we get a continuation of RK Bro and the Usos. They have their big unification match set for Friday. Still remains to be seen if we're actually going to get a winner or a finish in that. I have a feeling we will, because Riddle has been knocking off the Usos in singles matches. I think he beat Jay already. Here he beats Jimmy. Riddle wound up winning with an inside cradle and getting the win there. So a lot of that math tells me that we're probably going to see the Usos holding all of the gold on Friday night. I think WWE wants to get that visual with the Bloodline having all the gold. And like I said, I don't know how long this shit can last with Roman Reigns or either or the Usos or either tag team who unifies here. I think the Usos have a pretty high likelihood of being short-lived Raw Tag Team Champions. They might want to just do it to do it and then quickly take the titles back off of them. But this is the type of stuff that I was ranting about in the beginning with Sasha and Naomi. I'd be willing to bet WWE doesn't have an exit plan for this. They have no end game here, no exit strategy about how to, handle all of this once you do this unification match. So if the Usos do win, WWE, in their minds, is just basically saying, all right, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Once the Usos have all the titles, we'll figure out how to get one of them off of them, And that is so creatively irresponsible to me because, it just, I think it diminishes the value and the legacy of a lot of these titles when you can literally just switch them on a whim with a fucking mouthful of ham sandwich. Here, just do this when they're writing down the bullshit for that day. And just how... I just think just how haphazardly these decisions are made. Just whatever, like they literally don't care. So that'll be interesting on Friday, come Friday, once they unify these things, what they're going to do to ununify them. And then on the Roman Reigns end of things, he's got both titles right now. And there, of course, is the rumors of him taking time off after Money in the Bank, basically not being on TV at all, between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, which is going to be weird and really hard for him to build a SummerSlam program with somebody if he ain't on TV, unless he's going to face the winner of the Money in the Bank like Cody. And Cody then says, I'm cashing in at SummerSlam. I'm not going to take a cheap shot. I'm not going to attack you from behind. I'm calling my spot right now. And then maybe Roman and Paul Heyman could be like, cool, then I guess there's no reason for us to be here every week. We'll see you at SummerSlam. Goodbye. Get out of Dodge. That way Cody can't attempt to cash it in a cheap way or something. Maybe that's how they explain his absence. Otherwise, Roman's absence is going to be very strange. Now, there's been also talk about Roman's title run. Now, he currently has held the title, I don't know how many days, but it's the longest run in recent history, but he's still far, far off from any of the big ones. Now, I think the big four championship runs have been Bruno, Backlund, and Hogan. And probably Pedro, who I think held the belt maybe like 3 years. So Roman's got a ways to go just to surpass Pedro, And I think in WWE's mind, it would be really great. It would be really great for them. Don't worry about Bruno. In order for Roman Reigns to break Bruno's record, he has to hold the title until 2028. Ain't going to happen. However, you're never going to, this is your only chance. Like if I'm WWE, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if we ever want to break Hogan's record, if we ever even want to think that that's a possibility, because up until now, it never was. Business started moving real fast in the 90s, and we were never going to see a 4-year run again, ever. But now you've got somebody that's held the belt basically for 2 years almost already. And if you've ever had a chance to do it, this is it. This is really it. So maybe it will count if Roman eventually drops the WWE Championship and they separate the titles out and then he continues his run as Universal Champion for another couple of years. Then technically he would still break Hogan's record, but it would be an asterisk because he was a world champion and did lose one of the titles, but just got to keep another one. If Hogan had 2 championships to defend, then he might have been a champion for 10 years. You know what I mean? So it's weird. I almost wish that Roman would have won the WWE title a couple of years ago instead of the Universal. And he's been WWE champion for the past 2 years instead of the Universal champion, because that would look so much better in the record books, you know, as him actually being the longest running champion. And I think that's why WWE's kind of conflating the 2 titles too, to where you really don't know the difference between them. So I would love to see that. I would love to see Roman Reigns hold the title for 4 years. I have the patience to be able to handle that. Other wrestling fans do not. Most wrestling fans do not. But I would like to see something like that, because I think it would be fun and it would be different and it would be something we never thought we would see again. It was crazy enough for CM Punk and AJ Styles to hold the title for a year, you know, in modern times. But for a champion of this time period to hold a title for 4 years is fucking nuts. I kind of hope they do it. I do. I don't care. I don't care how many fans complain. Who's sick of Roman? Don't care. Shut up. Shut up. I'd be cool with it, because we have a lot of world championship belts in this world. New Japan's got a belt. WWE's got 2 of these fucking things. AEW's got 1. Lots of indie promotions have world titles. I can handle 1 championship belt in the entire universe of wrestling. I can handle 1 champion having a 4-year-long run. If you can't, then something's wrong with you. You got so much wrestling, so many stars to like, so many championship belts to follow. If you can't handle just 1 belt, you know, being tied up for a few years, I don't know, look yourself in the mirror, man. I kind of want to see that. So it'll be interesting if WWE really wants to do that with Roman. But like I said, I don't think they have a whole lot of end game in their mind about how this is all going to shake out. And once they do want to separate Roman's titles, how do you do it? How exactly do you accomplish this? Does the winner of the Money in the Bank briefcase automatically get a shot at both titles? Or does he get to choose which one of Roman Reigns' titles he gets to challenge for? You know what I mean? So it could be anything. It could be anything. And if that's what Cody does, wins Money in the Bank, challenges Roman Reigns. And if you remember, Cody at the beginning was making a big deal about the WWF championship that was taken away from his father. That's the black belt. That's the black belt that Roman's got. So if Cody does win the Money in the Bank, he can say, I want to challenge you, but not for the unified title. I want to challenge you for my dad's title. That one right there, the WWE Championship. I challenge you at SummerSlam for that. And then he beats Roman for the title. He could have all the help in the world. Maybe Brock comes back and fucks Roman up and Cody beats. Who knows? I think you could set Cody and Roman up a lot like Eddie and Brock. But with Brock or somebody else playing the role of Goldberg. You know, because Eddie had a great moment as a babyface and he had a lot of help from Goldberg. So you could book it that way and I think it would still be fine and get over with the audience. So if you had Brock hit the ring and fuck up Roman in the match and then Cody's able to win after a crossroads, Cody's now WWE champion. He gets to have the big tearful celebration and the moment with his father on Monday Night Raw. And then Roman is still your Universal Champion to go on then to hold that title for another 2 years. Because if Roman takes a loss and takes a pinfall loss, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a long time before you see him take another one. So if he loses that title at SummerSlam, he's still Universal Champion, and you can pretty much guarantee he's going to have that belt for another year, breaking at least Pedro's record. So they could do something like that. But the whole Bloodline thing and all these championships, you know, I don't know where they're going, but if I'm on the creative team, and I'm not, if they offer me a job and I'm going to turn it down, I would pitch something like that. What do y'all think? Before we get into the next match, let me just go back over here to the chat, make sure everything's good. Keep hitting that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. I would appreciate it. Get my self organized here. All right, we good there? Pardon me. All right, cool. We go. All right. Back to the chat. Ben, I am feeling better. I'm happy to report that my sickness is 90% gone. Last night, I finally coughed it all out. We had a great watch-along last night. We watched Judgment Day 2002. It was fun as hell. And I was still kind of sick, coughing a little bit. But last night, I finally felt when I slept like I got most of it out. And I think tomorrow I'll be 100%, which is good because tomorrow's the day I'm recording my Over the Edge review, 98 review. And I need to get that done. So I'm happy that whatever put me on this fucking shelf for a week and a half, that was a week and a half long head cold, like crazy congestion. So I'm still a little congested, but not like I was. I can actually speak now, which is nice. And because Saturday when I was trying to do the podcast, my eyes were watering, my nose was running, but I just had to do a podcast, so I came up here anyway. Where do we leave off in the Raw results? Oh, yeah. Los Lotharios taking on AJ Styles and Finn Balor next. Now, they showed a little backstage segment from earlier on in the day where Liv Morgan is being bothered by Los Lotharios, and AJ and Finn just happen to be walking by, because this is earlier on in the day, which implies that AJ and Finn walk around in their fucking gear for 12 hours, and they approach Liv Morgan and kind of run off the Lotharios, and they ask her to join them. Hey, look, you got an issue with Rhea Ripley. We got an issue with Edge and Damian Priest. Why don't we all work together? We're never going to beat them unless we work together. Basically, like, girl, we got your back. You know, we're two former world champions right here approaching you, trying to help you. And Liv's like, I don't know, I'm going to think about it. I'm like, think about it? You got AJ Styles and Finn Balor. You know, two guys that have held championship gold, really good wrestlers, tough hombres, coming up to offer help to you, and you're going to think about it? So I don't understand what that was about. And then we go to the tag team match, and Liv Morgan actually comes out first to technically introduce AJ and Finn. So she did decide to take them up on their offer. She was at ringside for the whole match. Finn Balor hit the coup de grace on one of them. I think it was Humberto, but I wasn't really paying attention. And they got the win. And the three of them did the little too sweet in the middle of the ring. So AJ and Finn have added the Bullet Babe to their little faction there to go up against Judgment Day. And I don't know if this is could you do a three-way mixed tag intergender thing or something? I guess you could. I just hope this is not, I think they're more creatively focused on the Judgment Day than they really are this likely temporary alliance between Finn Balor and AJ Styles. And we did also see a vignette or a promo from the Judgment Day in a backstage setting. Edge is on the throne, and Rhea and Damian Priest are there. And they're basically telling everybody, you can either join us or be destroyed by us. It's your choice. And, you know, Edge is still focusing a lot of his energy and his comments on AJ Styles. You should join us. You should join us. You should join us. So I'm not ruling out at all what I've been saying from the very beginning is that I think once you do this match, I would turn Balor. I would. You can get the little mini Bullet Club reunion for a little while here, but I think we can all confidently say that WWE wouldn't know what the fuck to do with the Bullet Club even if they had it. So let's not even have them bother to try because they're going to suck at it. So AJ and Finn can be a temporary alliance, and then whenever you do this big match that involves all six of them, I think that's when you turn Balor. He joins Judgment Day, and now you got a fucking demon in that group too. That would be fun. That's what I do to make it the most fun. But what I want and what WWE wants are usually two completely different things. So keep our eye on that. We get Alexa Bliss against Sonya Deville next. Sonya Deville, of course, has been stripped of her authoritative duties, which is great because she sucked at that. I'd much rather see her in the ring. And she's taken on Alexa Bliss, who returned last week. And this week, it sounded like Alexa Bliss had some new music. Didn't really get much of a feel for it or what it sounded like, but you guys can tell me if you thought it was good or bad. She's out there with some new music, and she winds up beating Sonya Deville. So Sonya Deville is kind of hit rock bottom here. Alexa Bliss is back, stringing up some wins. She's got the doll. She's got new music. Still don't have any idea what kind of direction they're going to take her in. Just don't know. So, and apparently Alexa Bliss recently was a little bit frustrated with her creative direction as well because the company doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Their heads are completely up their asses. That's why whenever this happens, I'm usually going to take the talent side because if I was there, I would have been unprofessional long ago. I'd have lasted 2 fucking weeks. I would have walked right out of there, gotten my little fucking Ford Lumina and sped off, you know, my little rental car. After Alexa Bliss and Sonya, we got a Cody Rhodes promo. What's up with the countdown to Cody shit? That's a heel move too, man. What is it with WWE testing the limits of these baby faces? They got Bobby Lashley up on a goddamn podium. They don't know if Lacey Evans is a heel or a face. And now they've got a Cody clock to count down when we're going to hear from Cody. I mean, on one hand, this is very good, you know, for Cody, that WWE really seems to be all in on this story. And I like it. I just cannot believe how well Cody's transition to WWE has worked. So many fans were like, oh, he's going to be chasing the 24/7 title. I'm like, I don't think he would go there if he thought that was a possibility. I think he's hands-on. I think he has a lot of creative freedom with this angle as well in terms of what he's doing with Seth. So he comes out to cut his promo. He, of course, got attacked pretty bad last week and got stomped on the table or whatever they did. And he says that they need to run it back one more time. Cuts a long, dramatic promo, as Cody tends to do. But at the end of the day, this was really all done just for him to challenge Seth Rollins to their blow-off, where inside of a Hell in the Cell. And he actually challenged him to that match. I wasn't sure if this feud and angle was going to be, personal enough to really put inside the cell, but I think based on what they did last week, it does now, and this should be a good one. This should be a really fun match. Help me out. Cody, first Hell in the Cell? It's got to be. He wasn't, I don't know if he was at a high enough spot on the card during his prior run to get in the cell, unless he did some weird tag thing or something against the Shield, which I don't think he did. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be Cody's first Hell in the Cell match against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins then appeared on the screen, giggling and laughing, and accepted Cody's challenge. So that match is already set. It's official. Cody and Seth, Hell in the Cell at the pay-per-view. That's going to be fun. I'm cool. We knew that they were going to have one more, and putting it in the cell, the big red Mattel toy, should be good. It'll be reverse blood and guts. After that, we had Ezekiel taking on Chad Gable. Now, this week on Raw was also supposed to be the big DNA test reveal. Gable got Ezekiel's DNA off the Solo Cup that I think he was using with the Street Profits last week, and he found one of Elias's old hairs from one of his guitars, and he sent both off to the lab to be analyzed. And I was really looking forward to this because I'm like, finally, I'm losing so much respect for Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has been one of my favorite wrestlers ever, even before he came to WWE, and I've loved his work there. I think he's fantastic, but he has really let me down with a lot of this ridiculous shit. To look at this guy, Ezekiel, and think that he's that hairy guitar player is crazy. Any idiot with two eyes can see that this is a completely different person. Kevin Owens is coming out on TV week after week making an ass out of himself. So finally, they're sending it off to the DNA lab now to finally get some proof. But fucking Otis decides to have a big plate full of ribs, and he taints the DNA sample with barbecue sauce. Otis. My God. Here we were finally about to get the truth that Ezekiel is really Elias's brother, and Otis fucks it up. So what this does is give Kevin more ammunition in his stupid conspiracy theory to think that this is all some sort of a big ruse, which means he's going to continue to be insistent that Ezekiel is Elias, despite the fact that he's seen photos of the two of them together. They're clearly different people. Ezekiel has no hair on his face. Elias has a lot. If that doesn't prove it, I don't know what does. And on top of that, with Elias being, kind of not available right now, Twitter has given his brother the use of his Twitter account. They wouldn't just give that to anybody who calls up and claims to be his brother. No, they're going to need proof of that. So we've had so much evidence and so much proof that these are two different people, and Kevin Owens continues to insist that it's the same guy, and it's fucking embarrassing. And if he doesn't straighten up, he just signed that brand new WWE contract. He's embarrassing them on a company level. I mean, at some point, they might have to release him, because you can't go out there and just spew out nonsense and fake news like that and expect to keep your job and be paid well. No, he better tighten up, or he's going to face disciplinary action, or possibly even be released for slander. And you know what? At this point, he deserves it, because he's just disappointed me. He was so great, so awesome, did a great job at WrestleMania, and I think Owens or Austin must have stunned something loose in his head, and now he's completely lost his mind, and if he's not careful, he's going to wind up losing his job. So then we have to get Ezekiel, who's he's just a brand new guy trying to make it in the WWE, and he's got this thorn in his side. Kevin Owens and Chad Gable making a huge stink about his birth certificate and where he was born, and his brother and his family, and getting all into his personal business when all he's trying to do is be professional and go out there and have wrestling matches. It's embarrassing what they're doing to this poor guy. So he gets a chance to get a little bit of revenge tonight, facing Chad Gable one-on-one, and he beats him. Now, Kevin Owens is on commentary, freaking out, pissed off, threatening to dropkick anyone in the forehead who thinks that Ezekiel and Elias are two different people. Well, Owens, you can come drop kick me in the forehead. I got a big one. Just like Byron Saxton, my forehead goes all the way to the back. It's a 7 head. So you got all sorts of space here to throw one up on my noggin. So if you want to do that, you might as well, because I'm kind of in the same boat with everybody else. The only one who's crazy here, Owens, is you. I'm sorry. After that, we get a Lacey Evans promo. She's coming out to the ring this time. So this situation, we don't know what's going on. She does the 5 vignettes, the 5 chapters on SmackDown, where she details real gnarly details of her life and her father and abuse and drug addiction and suicide and overdoses and everything in the world, right? Then they bring her out after all of that on Raw. I think it was last week or the week before, right? Or whenever it was. Or no, they did it on SmackDown. They brought her out physically on SmackDown, and that's when the ring announcer told the fans to stand up and show the proper respect. And then she was moved to Raw. Then we hear reports that the plan internally is for her to be a heel going forward, which is fucking crazy. Can you blame Sasha Banks for any of this? Imagine if you're Lacey Evans and you're asked to pour your heart out in these vignettes that weren't really my cup of tea, but, you know, she really, I think, worked hard trying to deliver that. She was clearly emotional about it, doing everything she could to garner as much babyface sympathy as possible. And then they move you to the other brand. You just told your story on one show, and then they just move you to the other because they decided that during breakfast when they were eating their bacon. And then we hear the reports that she's going to be a heel. Well, that makes no fucking sense. It made less enough sense for what Samantha Irvin said when she came out. Then it made even less sense for them to move her to Raw. Then it made even less sense than that to turn her into a heel. So when she came out tonight to that stupid fucking theme music, that theme music that Lacey Evans has sounds like the type of shit WWE plays when they show one of their vignettes for one of their philanthropy events or whatever, you know, whenever they're doing good in the community, they play some cheesy shit like that. That's what it sounds like. And this is like babyface music. Even though the music sucks, it's still babyface music. So she starts coming out and I'm like immediately confused. I'm like, is she heel? She's smiling, waving to everybody, you know, slapping hands and hugging kids. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess she's a babyface. And then she cuts a babyface promo and says that she doesn't even think she's better than everybody else or whatever and all this shit. And she basically calls out the locker room saying, you better look out for me. None of y'all are better than me either. And she's, I guess, going to be on the Raw brand now as a full-blown babyface, which is weird. So she hasn't wrestled yet. We haven't seen anybody interrupt her yet. I would assume that next week, if she comes out and does something similar, that will be where we see a confrontation of some kind, and they will start moving her into some sort of a direction and giving her angle and give her someone to face, I guess. She still shouted out to everybody in the military and for people to show them some love, and everybody did, and it was you know, totally babyface promo. So I'm assuming that the reports of her being a heel, or I'm hoping anyway, that the reports of her being a heel were just false. Because if they really planned to have her a babyface, then change their mind and make her a heel, and then change their mind again and made her a babyface, why are we trusting this company to wipe their ass, much less produce a TV show? You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that whoever it was, Meltzer, whoever it was, had said that she's going to be a heel moving forward. Hopefully that was just BS, and WWE had always planned for her to be a babyface, because that's the way it's all been presented to us on TV. If it really is all that confusing behind the scenes, man, I don't know. I do not know. But anyway, Lacey's on Raw, and she's a face, at least for now. Main event, of course, was the now one-on-one match between Becky and Asuka that was switched from the six-pack challenge after all the drama with Sasha Banks and Naomi. You can rewind to the beginning of this podcast if you're just joining us, if you want to hear all my comments about that situation. But here we are with the main event now. The winner of this faces Bianca Belair at Hell in a Cell. Bianca was out at the commentary table doing guest commentary, or at least sitting out there. Did she talk? I don't even know. I wasn't paying attention. I was getting ready for the stream. I just kind of eyeballed the match a little bit. What was it? You guys have to help me. What did Becky Lynch have in her hand? I really like these two one-on-one. They've had some great wars in the past, and Asuka has scored some big victories over Becky Lynch before. I know she owns one at the Royal Rumble over her, and maybe another one as well. So Becky has gone down to Asuka a lot, and Becky, I don't know what she had in her hand. It wasn't a kendo stick. It was something else. And she goes to hit Asuka with it when the referee's not looking. Asuka hits her with the green mist, nails her with a strong kick right after that and pins her for the win. And now we're getting Asuka and Bianca at Hell in the Cell, which is kind of interesting. So I have no issue with the outcome there. I don't know how long it took WWE to decide they were going to go in that direction. And this was their alternative to Naomi, apparently, who was going to win the match, according to the reports. So pretty good match. I think they covered for everything nicely. The show was still relatively entertaining despite all the drama they had going on. So they were able to weather the storm, but it seems like situations like this could be avoided if they just gave a fuck. Sometimes, you know what I mean? So I just wish that they would stop putting talent in positions that they have to get frustrated. I know talent, you can't please everybody. There's always going to be people unhappy, even when times are great, even when, storylines are good, ratings are good, everybody's making money. You're still going to have unhappy talent. But it seems like there is so much creative frustration among WWE wrestlers. It's ridiculous. We saw what went on with Ali, other guy, lots of people throughout the years requesting the releases, and WWE denies them just out of fucking spite. Says, no, you're going to sit here and put up with whatever stupid shit we write for you. It's ridiculous. So it'll be interesting to see what we hear about this story as the week progresses, if we get any more news tomorrow. At some point, Sasha and Naomi are going to have a meeting with Vince McMahon or with management, and there will have to be punishment, an agreement to be reached, some sort of conclusion. I'm assuming they're going to have to strip them of the tag team titles now, unless they work something out this week and they get them back on TV by Friday. I think that's a big if, but I suppose it could happen. Then they're going to have to strip them, hold a tournament or something to crown new champions when your division is shit anyway. If anything, I think the tag title should just die right here with this team if they did in fact walk out. But I'm sure WWE will have to do something stupid to crown new champions. Just when I thought I was getting better, I feel like I'm congesting up again. But that pretty much takes care of it for the Raw results. I'm going to go over here to see if you guys have anything interesting to say in the chat. Oh, umbrella. That's what it was. I couldn't tell. It was like red and yellow or something. I don't know. Umbrella. What the fuck was an umbrella doing out there? Is it raining? Rarely even. Yeah, good point on the Cody Seth stuff, because this blow off, this rubber match isn't even a rubber match because Cody's up 2-0. So here, if he beats Seth, I think it could go either way. You could get Seth a victory because Seth has been losing a lot, but you could also argue that Seth has built himself up to a point that even multiple pay-per-view losses in a row isn't really going to damage him in the long run. I will promise you 1,000,000% Seth Rollins will be a world champion in WWE again one day, regardless if he wins or loses to Cody. So I think that he could lose. Maybe Seth Rollins is a great wrestler. He's a guy that's heavily relied upon in WWE. And if WWE wants to make Cody one of their top stars and they have these big plans for Cody, they need to go to some talent and say, hey, we need you to help us make Cody. You've won a lot of championships in this company. If he comes in and beats you 3 straight nights or 3 straight matches, that will really help establish him as somebody different than the Cody who was here before. This is a guy that's going to contend for world championships, and we need to make that statement right off the bat as soon as he gets here. Instead of putting him against smaller opponents or smaller feuds or smaller angles. Triple H famously did this with Batista back in 2005, put him over, boom, 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 pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, just to establish that Batista is a big deal. And they could be using Seth Rollins in a similar way. And once Seth Rollins does these jobs to help get Cody over, there's always going to be, the return of the favor at some point. As a matter of fact, if Seth Rollins does become WWE champion one day, I'd have him beat Cody for it. That's the way you make up for it. Cody can beat him here, and establish himself then and go on that run. Imagine that. Cody's won every match that he's faced, including defeating Seth Rollins 3 times, twice on pay-per-view, once in Hell in the Cell. Then the very next month he goes into Money in the Bank and wins the briefcase. Then he goes to SummerSlam and wins the title. He is on an incredible roll. Now he's established. Now people know he's a big deal. Now WWE, they they were able to do what they set out and intended to do, and got what they wanted. Now you can start talking about losses. Then you give Cody a run. Eventually, maybe at the Royal Rumble or something, I don't know, he runs into Seth Rollins and Seth beats him for the championship. You could do that. So I think I don't personally think there's a right or wrong answer to this. You could make a case that Seth should win here, but I think you could also make a case for Cody, because I think Seth is an established enough talent and well valued in WWE he's to a point in his career where these type of losses, he can sustain them. They're not career-ending losses. They're not losses that will bury you and push you down to the roster. You're never going to see Seth chasing that green clock around. You know what I mean? We've seen Seth dip below after being world champion before. What does he always do? Wrestle for the IC title, or, pop out Rey Mysterio's eyeball or something. They've always got him doing some shit. So I don't think that a loss would hurt him in the grand scheme of things, and I think he would probably be credited a little bit backstage for really helping Cody come in and get established as a major guy. Somebody's got to be there for him. Somebody's got to put him over. Somebody's got to be that guy, and they've chosen Seth Rollins as that guy. And he's probably the right guy, to be honest, when you think about everybody else who have been world champions in the company. If Cody came in and beat Finn Balor 3 times, it wouldn't carry as much weight, based on how WWE treats Balor. Maybe if he came in and did that with AJ, possibly could also work. AJ would have been another good candidate there. But they went with Seth Rollins, multi-time WWE champion, clean victories over the top stars in the company. He's got clean wins over Roman, clean wins over Brock, clean wins over everybody. So Cody coming in and beating him, that establishes your goal. Make Cody a big deal, So I kind of think Cody goes over. I hope he does. I honestly hope he does. But, you could argue too, if Seth wins, then Cody can just bounce right back with the briefcase, but I think Cody should just be winning hard, because based on who he was when he was there previously, even in AEW, he wasn't contending for the world title because he booked himself out of that. So you have to, if you're going to treat him like a big deal, you got to establish with the fans that he really is one. It's easy just to say it. He has to be it too. So in order to be that, he has to quickly start beating top caliber talent. And I think that's what, I think with everything that WWE does wrong and how much goofy shit they do a few things right. And they've handled Cody marvelously. I can't believe I'm saying that. I cannot commend WWE enough for how they handled this. Here as fans, many of us thought this was going to be a disaster, either for Cody or WWE, especially the way Cody was kind of looked at by fans in AEW. We're all very happy that he ended racism, but at the same time, some of his promos were a little self-indulgent, and Cody had that Cody vibe to him. And so bringing that over to WWE, knowing how this audience can be with them, with their rejections of John Cena and Roman Reigns throughout the years, and a lot of baby faces who they just aren't feeling. I was worried that Cody could be out there spilling his guts about his father, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, while the fans are chanting, "You suck." I was really worried about that for him. But it's gone so well, It's gone so well. WWE what they've done with Cody is put a little bit of that E word I've talked about, effort. And I feel like they could have so many storylines, angles, and stars do so much better if they put the same amount of time and energy and thought into what they're doing with Cody or Roman into everybody, because that's what got them success back in the Attitude Era, when you started separating out the talent, the Edges and the Christians and the Hardys and the Dudleys and, I don't know, the Eddie Guerreros and all the guys there, and start having actual things for them to do and storylines and angles and characters for them to establish with the audience, instead of just having a generic font on the Titantron and you smile with your big white teeth like Raquel Rodriguez. She has no gimmick. She has no character. She should just be an ass-kicking, leather-wearing female Diesel, but instead she's, it's like they don't use anybody with any sort of, creative thought. Apparently got 20 writers back there, where back in the day they concentrated individually on more people, gave them more time, and just didn't write something because they're ready to clock out and go home or whatever. It just feels like everything's being rushed through. There's no real true thought being put into anything. And this is probably in large part due to Vince McMahon. That's just the way it is. But in terms of Cody, They've gotten everything right so far. So I think as fans, you got to look at how they're doing so far with Cody, and I think everyone could. I think if there's a fan out there that has looked at Cody Rhodes' WWE return as a failure, you've got some serious bias going on, because I don't care who you are, you gotta think that this has been going very well so far for Cody. I think it's gone as well as it possibly could. So that is fantastic that it's going that way for Cody, and they have a chance here now to create another top star, another world champion caliber guy that does have that connection to Dusty Rhodes. WWE is maybe wanted to distance themselves a little bit from Ric Flair and even Hulk Hogan throughout the years, but with Ric Flair, they've got Charlotte there, and now Cody to become a world champion. I'll tell you what, man, I want a segment one day in the future with Cody as WWE champion and Charlotte as women's champion, and they're in the ring together. I do. I just think that would be really awesome, for a fan that watched both of their dads wrestle. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm all in favor of Cody being as big of a star as WWE wants to make him. And in terms of, them really dropping the ball here, I think Cody's and WWE both have made it to where that's not going to be possible. And think about how smart Cody is too. A lot of fans were like so shocked that he jumped ship, and so was I. But then as more time has passed here, in hindsight now, it really makes all kinds of sense in the world. And Vince McMahon is about to... Oh, I'm sorry, Deshaun. I'm going to get to those super chats in 1 second. I'm rambling here. Give me a second. When you think about the age that Vince McMahon is, and you think about Vince McMahon and how far back he goes in wrestling, and that he knew Dusty, and that he worked with when Dusty came in and he put him in polka dots. But even before that, which I've mentioned before, my very first ever memory of professional wrestling was those Dusty and Superstar Billy Graham matches when Dusty came up from Florida and worked like 3 matches with Graham in the Garden and came very, very close to winning the title. Vince McMahon did interviews with Dusty Rhodes. Vince McMahon has always liked Dusty Rhodes. Cody Rhodes also knows this. They've named the Dusty Classic after him. He was a big part of NXT. And when he came back into the fold in WWE, they really accepted him in. After he was a part of that Cookie Gate in TNA, they still brought him in and made him a big part of their family. And now he's kind of immortalized as one of WWE's kind of go-to legends to reference or talk about. And Vince McMahon has that personal tie to the Dusty Rhodes from back in the day, but Vince McMahon is also old. If Cody Rhodes spends all his time in AEW and then Vince McMahon passes away, he might not be able to get into WWE with the same goals that he has now, because Vince probably loves this storyline of Dusty or of Cody trying to honor his father, make his dad proud, win the belt that he couldn't win or that was taken away from him, and tie all that history into it. It's probably much easier to convince a Vince McMahon of this than somebody else after Vince McMahon has passed away who doesn't give a fuck about Dusty Rhodes. So Cody might know this too. Hey, if I'm ever going to go over there and have a chance to be a champion and, and honor the family legacy, I need to do it while Vince is still ticking, because when he's gone, that opportunity might go away. And I bet you that has something to do with it too, because I mentioned the Dusty thing the entire time. I said WWE pretty much owns his entire legacy, and that, I guarantee you, was a big factor in Cody making that jump. And if he does win the title, I hope not only does he bring that belt that apparently he owns, that Dusty Rhodes was able to hold for a brief time in WWF, but I hope he brings back the Winged Eagle like he did the classic IC. Please don't put the white strap on it, but if you bring back the old classic Winged Eagle, I will shit a toaster. I will. Deshaun, appreciate that $2 informing me of your super chats from earlier on. So let me go up here and knock those out. And I'm going to go a little further up just to make sure I didn't miss anything else either. I did not. Oh, the police are coming. There's your $2 from earlier, dude. Legacies, Cody and DiBiase versus DX Hell in the Cell. I knew there was some sort of a tag match like that with Cody probably in Legacy or maybe even Dustin. Okay, so it won't be his first Hell in the Cell, but it will be his first one-on-one Hell in the Cell. Trey, Greg, come on. That's Elias. Are you blind? What are you talking about, guys? Jesus. Well, put Trey in the throw Trey in the weird conspiracy basket there with Kevin Owens, because they both crazy. Deshaun Robinson, thank you for the 5 more, dude. The following thread I sent you on Twitter was made by someone who Naomi follows on Twitter. I will say I don't know how true this is, but Should we look at that right here? Okay. Oh, Jesus. Let's just read some of this for fun. This is the first time I'm seeing any of this. I don't know. Okay, this person is it's security at Joseline's Cabaret at Adidas_head88. And what did you say about this, Deshaun? You said that this is someone Naomi follows. Okay, so this could mean dick, so don't take any stock in anything I'm saying here. We're just going to read this shit. You are approached in February as being put in a tag team after both being promised big feuds at WrestleMania. You bite the bullet and put everything you got into being a tag team. It works. You get over, win the titles at WrestleMania, and become merchandise pushers. 5 weeks into your reign, you show up to live TV and ready to work. You are told you will be in the main event, and you are happy. You are both then told that one of you will be going over from pinning the other. You have questions why that decision was made and how it helps y'all. So we kind of speculated on that exact finish. It was like it's probably something that's going to tease a little bit of, maybe not dissension, but unevenness in the team. And that's just way too quick to do that. They don't allow anything to breathe. We just talked about this in the beginning of the podcast. Goes on to say, you request a meeting with your boss to discuss it. Your boss takes the meeting and everything is actually going well. He understands your concerns. The meeting ends well and the match is told to be reconstructed. For some reason, producers get mad about it. You then ask with one of your members going over, what happens to your titles? You are told basically that you will just be carrying the belts. They want to use you both to help both women's champions get more over. Bianca versus Naomi, Sasha versus Ronda. Okay. Neither one of you will win the solo titles, and you won't defend your tag titles until Money in the Bank. You ask for another meeting with your boss, but this time you are being called spoiled. A producer walks away screaming. He comes back and tells both of you to fix your attitudes. Y'all have a brief meeting amongst yourselves and decide to stand up for yourselves. You go to another boss and make it clear you have concerns. You ask, why are we even in the match and why aren't other women in it? Or why are we even in the match and why aren't other women in it instead, basically? You ask why your titles have no stories for 2 months. Again, you are met with fix your attitudes. So after one final meeting with yourselves and asking others, you make the ultimate decision as a team. It's sad how one side is trying to create a fucked up narrative. Also, it was asked where Nikki ASH and Doudrop. Sorry, I'm bad at reading. Also, it was asked why were Nikki ASH and Doudrop in the match instead of starting their program tonight. Naomi nor Sasha talked down about being in the ring with either one. I don't know how that got flipped. So that's referring to WWE's statement saying that they weren't comfortable with two opponents in the ring. That probably wasn't the case. They probably just asked about those two. I have no idea who this person is, okay? He's got 479 followers. He's followed by one guy that follows me. I don't know, but this seems pretty genuine. None of that seems a reach. None of that seems far-fetched. All of that seems completely plausible and situations that I can easily see happening backstage. Why? Because we've heard of these exact type of scenarios play out in wrestler interviews and podcasts. We know how creatively fucked up everything is behind the scenes. So maybe this is him coming up with the scenario in his head, what probably happened. Maybe this is Naomi telling him what happened. I don't know. Who knows? But that all seems pretty logical to me, especially when they were put together and they actually put forth the effort of getting over, and then they split you up. This is something WWE does all the time. They don't allow anything to sit. The Hurt Business should still be together and as strong as ever. We still should not even be having the conversation of them breaking up yet. And they've been broken up for months. How long has it been? Months and months and months and months and months ago. So this is something that they always do because just like I was complaining about in the beginning of the podcast when I was ranting about how they just decide shit and fly by the seat of their pants all the time, they're doing that at the expense of wrestlers' time, energy, and their bodies, really putting their hard work into making this bullshit that you've decided work, and then you just change your mind because you really didn't put any thought into what you originally decided in the first place. And this is unfair to people. It's unfair to put them through this and make them go through this work and put miles on your body. Every bump you take, is going to shorten your career by a second or two, So every time you do that, they're just, when you're working so hard and putting your body through pain and punishment, wear and tear, and setting yourself up for an old life of pain, and you're doing it all for nothing, and you're doing it all for just meaningless shit that's going to be forgotten and go unremembered until the end of time, that would be frustrating to me as a talent. I'm like, it hurts to take bumps. I want to, if I'm going to take bumps and win championships, I at least want to be remembered for it or something, and not just have it be, so insignificant and irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And that's what everything WWE does. So when they put Naomi and Sasha together, that was probably a quick fix Band-Aid just to get them through whatever the hell they were doing at the time. Now they've said, well, with Naomi and Sasha, we do have two former world champions right there that do have value on the roster. We could use them to get our other champions over. So now they want to make them back into singles again because they didn't think all this shit all the way through. Why didn't they think about that in February when they probably already knew that Ronda and Bianca would be champion this year? Why didn't they have that foresight then to come up with these things? And this is the type of shit that I can understand a talent's frustration because they're working for a company that just refuses to think a couple of steps ahead when they should have plenty of people working there, should be plenty of staff and plenty of infrastructure to be able to think creatively. And for some reason they can't. They can figure out how to have the best production, make the most beautiful arenas and LED screens and WrestleMania sets and, and be just such a really well-oiled machine in so many different departments. But when it comes to the meat and potatoes of what you actually do as a company, that's what you suck the most at. Think about that. Think about how good WWE is at everything else other than the name of their fucking company, wrestling. They suck at professional wrestling. They suck at storylines. They suck at angles. They suck at long-term booking. They suck at developing characters. They suck at literally every aspect of that aside from a couple of pieces of talent. And that seemingly is supposed to be the most important part of your company. What makes people tune into you is the wrestling part, the part you suck at the most. I'd rather have WWE be great at wrestling and shitty on production values. I don't need pyro and LED ring posts. Give me a break. I don't need all that. I want to see something that's compelling and exciting. I'm not tuning in for lights and lasers. I'm tuning in for wrestling, you fucking morons. So it's hard for me just to automatically say, yep, I'm going to take that guy at face value without ever hearing of him before. But there's not much in there that makes me think that, I don't know if that's not very believable. All that seems completely plausible to me. Completely. So I'm inclined in my instinct, and I always trust my instincts. I'm inclined to believe all that, but we'll see. Source? We'll wait to see people. I believe it, and you don't know the truth. So I'm sure, I'm sure Twitter is so fun right now. There's probably the most ridiculous comments on this. But yeah. Shout out to Warren Hayes. If I was being lined up to put Ronda over again, I'd hit the bricks too. So there's, like I said earlier, there is a line to being unprofessional and having a legitimate gripe and have every, fucking right to make a decision for yourself. You're an independent contractor, don't forget. So you shouldn't have to be forced really to do anything. And I think a lot of talent puts up with a lot, but at some point you reach your breaking point. At some point you reach your limit and say, will you please, for the love of God, stop jerking me the fuck around? Because that's what you've been doing to me for the years and I'm sick of it. So you probably do have people that just eventually can't take the bullshit anymore. So like I said, it just depends on the situation. Not every situation is a matter of professionalism. I saw people, of course it's the good athletic wrestling hating crowd that for some reason does exist because they get really mad when other people say this guy could be a world champion. So then that makes them hate the talent. I've seen a lot of people talk about Ali being unprofessional. I'm like, no, Ali is just being fed up with exactly what I described earlier on. This is the same type of shit he was probably going through. Just being jerked around all the time, either not being used or when he is being used, they start something, they stop it. Then they start something again, and they stop that again. Then they give him an angle and a faction only to break it up instantly. And then he's off TV again. Then he comes back, and they have nothing for him. I mean, it's just how many times does he have to go through with this until he just says, can I please get the fuck out of here? Can you just release me? You're clearly not doing anything to me, with me. I'm worth nothing to you. Business wouldn't even notice if I was gone. So can you just release me so I can go out and have fun with my career and not be miserable my goddamn life? No, we can't. Because you might go to a company that does know how to use you, and we can't have that. So we're going to keep you here knowing that we're inept, but we're going to keep you here because we know they can make more use out of you. Would Ali go over there and be a world champion? I don't think so. The fans that get a little carried away with that, I think they're going overboard. It's not about necessarily being world champion. It's about being creatively satisfied with what you're doing in your career and how happy you are as a competitor, as a wrestler, as a performer. You know, you don't want to go to work miserable every day. Now you got Roderick Strong, same thing. Look, I'm useless to you guys. You've killed my whole faction. You've released everybody. I'm invisible. I will do nothing of substance on the main roster if you move me there. I can probably be a good veteran to have in the NXT locker room, but other than that, what value do I really have? So would it be all right if you just let me out of my contract so I can go be with my friends and my wife? No, Mr. Strong, we can't do that, because even though we don't know what to do with you, we're afraid they will. So again, we're going to keep you here because we're stupid. And that's what this company does. And it's unfair. Talent's eventually going to get frustrated. You're going to see situations like this arise if this continues to be the status quo in WWE. This is ridiculous, the way they just decide on things and how they book things. These are supposed to be smart people, you know, and they're booking the shit that they did continuously with these tag teams, making these belts completely meaningless. And they do this with the men too. You know, any tag team, it's like they immediately start having to have this dissension and shit. And it always happens like that. And they always rush it. Sometimes you can see that coming. We know at some point in the future, Randy Orton and Riddle are going to implode, and it's going to be fucking amazing. But you don't do that 2 weeks after you put the team together. I think they were about to do that. And then luckily Orton got sick or something. He was gone for that month last summer. And when he came back, they were really over and they decided to run with it for a while. But WWE was probably on that track to begin with RK Bro. When they first started teaming up and Orton was so rejective of Riddle, eventually you felt like he was going to turn on him. So we knew that that was going to come. We knew that was going to happen, but now they've delayed it, and see how much better it is when you let it grow, when you let it breathe, when you let these guys develop and establish a relationship and a friendship and a partnership with each other. And they're probably the most overact in the company right now. So you let this breathe and you let it go. And when the inevitable happens, it's probably going to be pretty awesome, because there's so much history, and there's going to be so much material used for the feud and the program, and so much, the personal relationship between the two, how that's going to turn into a feud is going to be so much greater than if they just broke them up 1 month after they put them together, when they've had no time to establish anything. Now they've had time to grow, and that's what it's all about. So when WWE wants to put thought and effort into stuff, they prove that they can. So why can't they do that with everything? Why does it stop with just a couple of acts and it doesn't continue with anybody else? I know why. It's because the people in charge, and they suck. But I just feel like they got so much talent there, so much capable talent that could be so great and have great storylines if they would just care. You know what I mean? So, yeah. It's kind of a rant on WWE night. Sorry about that. Let me cruise back here to the chat, knock out a couple more super chats, see if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, and then I will probably be getting out of here. Is Ricochet still the IC champion? I'd love to see Ricochet in AEW as well. He's another guy that, like, even though he's Intercontinental champion, I still have no confidence that WWE will really make anything great out of Ricochet. And with the type of matches he's capable of having, I'd rather have him go somewhere where you can see that shit on a pretty regular basis. And AEW would be a good spot for that, especially if Will Ospreay ever makes his way over here to good old US of A. Then shit might get real. Nikita, good to see you. Thank you for being here. What's up? Hey, Greg, just woke up and about to start my day. 6:30 a.m. Holy shit, it is 9:30 p.m. for me here on the West Coast. Time differences are fun. Have a great rest of your day. I won't spoil what happens tomorrow. Right on. Thank you for being here, and welcome. Good luck with your day. Good luck with your Tuesday, right? It's not Monday. It's Tuesday for you, and hope it's a great one. The way WWE books Cody the next 2 years will determine if MJF comes to WWE. James could be right about that. Still a lot of talk online about MJF going to WWE. I think a lot of this is, because MJF is one of the few guys that's really 99% of the time in character. So anything that he's going to say or that's going to get out, you have to assume it's going to be MJF talking. But Maxwell Friedman is also going to have a say in this too, about his life and where he sees this MJF character going, how much money he wants to make, what kind of a career he wants to have. If he goes to WWE, is he going to be able to negotiate him keeping his name, keeping his persona, and all that stuff? Or are they going to change him up and give him a WWE name? Like I said, some guys are above that. Some guys can actually have that worked out. And I think MJF could find himself in a situation where he could come in as that complete character. We could actually see it again. And apparently, unless AEW has purchased it, his theme song is a free song, right, on the YouTube library. At least that's what I heard years ago. So shit, you got another guy here. Now, after Jeff Hardy and Cody Rhodes, now you could have it MJF technically jumping and bring everything, his entire gimmick with him, which would be crazy. But that depends, WWE might say, no, we will pay you a good amount of money, but we're going to change your name. And then maybe MJF's like, no, that's a deal breaker for me. I'm keeping my name. And then WWE says, well, okay, well then best of luck to you. And he stays in AEW. Who knows? But I think he's going to find himself in a position to have a lot of leverage with both companies. And it is either going to come down to money and money only, or creative and a combination of both, creative and money. But I think people have to also remember that what MJF is going to do, don't think about it from the character standpoint of MJF. Remember that even though it's hard to believe, there really is a human being under there that's going to have his own decision to make. And then the MJF character will explain that decision however he wants to. But I think it's all just chatter to get buzz and shit like that right now. MJF could be doing a lot of this talking just to, help increase that value. He's a smart guy too. And if the rumors are true about arguments with Tony Khan, and he puts it out that he's interested in going to WWE, that's, maybe going to help score him a few more extra bucks in the end. And who knows, he might have no intention of going there. Maybe this is just a way for him to get the best offer from them possible to have Tony Khan match. But Tony's going to want him to sign an extension way before that contract comes up. So he will either wait to see what kind of offer he gets from WWE, or Tony Khan will say, nope, I don't even want to let it get that far. Name your price and then pays it. We'll see. But I think Cody's run could determine that, MJF and WWE. However, Cody is just, Cody's different than MJF. Cody already has that prior run in WWE. His dad is Dusty Rhodes. MJF is not going to have the same, he's not going to have that same type of value to them that Cody is. But he is going to have the value of taking a major star away from AEW. Same thing with Darby Allin. They might want to bring Darby in. But Darby and MJF are very small guys as well. And WWE has kind of gotten away from that a little bit. So MJF might be a guy where his bread is going to be the best buttered in AEW, but you really don't know. I used to think that about Cody too. And look where he is now. WWE's releasing fucking neck tattoo, temporary neck tattoos of Cody. Did you see that? That's fantastic. Who would wear that? Who would buy that? Man, if AEW did that, if AEW released Cody Rhodes temporary neck tattoos, oh my God, the hate they would get from that special part of Twitter. My God. But WWE releasing the neck tattoos, I think, is hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. They'll sell them too. You watch. You watch. Oh, yeah, and we're going to get a Cody and Orton program at some point as well. I think we talked about this one of the live streams recently, that Orton might actually be like a good first opponent for Cody. First good title defense, full circle moment, maybe, because Cody's got to beat someone right after he wins the title. He's got to have a pay-per-view match against someone and beat that person. So you got to think about the right guy to put him in there with. And if you start just lining up guys, You know, if Cody beats Seth 3 times and beats Roman Reigns and Randy Orton in the span of 6 months, I think it's pretty safe to say they've established him as a major, major player. So Randy Orton and Cody could be awesome. Could be awesome. Cody and Edge would be fun as well. Yeah, these are all good ones. All good ones. I put up on Twitter the other day that I think I might be the only person that might be kind of intrigued in an Edge and John Cena match in 2022. A lot of people don't want to see that. The work they did years ago was great, or, a lot of people feel that it was great. But I always felt that John Cena really hadn't come into his own yet in the ring during that feud with Edge. Those matches were great. Don't get me wrong. They were great in their own Edge and John Cena way. But I thought John Cena got better with age. And by the time he got to matches with AJ Styles and stuff, I mean, he was so good in the ring. The dude was having like match of the year candidates every year. And he had improved so much, to me anyway, as a wrestling fan. And Edge, has maintained his ability in the ring. He did great work with Randy Orton and AJ Styles so far. And I think the two of them, in kind of a weird way, could potentially maybe even have better matches than they did before, similar to how Shawn and Undertaker seemed to tear the house down in their late 40s. So I think they could maybe do it if they wanted to go there, or if the Judgment Day targeted John Cena whenever he returns. You could also think about Damian Priest. Maybe they target John Cena and Damian Priest works with Cena and Cena puts him over or something. I don't know. Edge, you got to feel like he's got a finite amount of matches. So I'd be more open to him working with first-time opponents because, that's probably the best idea. But I don't know. Edge and John Cena kind of intrigues me a little bit. Banks was a work, according to some people. Yeah, that shit's all over social media. We will see. But tell me when WWE has worked us by talking about, well, I guess WCW has. There might be an example of this. My point is, in WWE's statement, they're talking about match rehearsals and having issues with opponents, even though they've worked with them in the last few days and shit like that. That's very specific. And if this shit is a work, WWE, I don't know how the fans can't see that this isn't one, at least in my mind, because WWE sucks at this type of stuff. Whenever they try to make something like a shoot, they suck at making it a shoot. It's so fucking obvious that it's a work. This is not how they do things. When they're trying to make things seem real, they released a statement talking about match rehearsals and the planned finishes and shit like that. They don't break kayfabe right in front of you. They save that shit for Peacock and the 24 specials and all of that. They're not coming out to the ring and cutting promos and saying, I was supposed to win that match tonight and she didn't want to do it and she left. You don't really see that. We got a little taste of it maybe after the screw job. Curtain was peeled back a little bit, but this is not the normal behavior of WWE. So when they are trying to work somebody, this is not how they do it, because WWE is extremely ball-achingly formulaic to the point where it literally puts you to sleep. And they're not going to just suddenly, randomly break that formula for your women's tag team champions to cause buzz on social media. They can do that any number of ways. This would be a very weird way to purposely put your company in the headlines in kind of an unflattering way, and that's why they released that statement, to try to push that narrative out as quickly as they could, that they were unprofessional and wanted to leave when there's a much bigger story here. So the fact that they tried to get that out as quickly as possible before the wrestling world digs into these details, that's not how they operate when shit's a work. That's not how they do it. We've all been watching WWE for so long. We should all understand this. It's very easy to see what they're doing. Their core audience is 6-year-olds, and they can't get this creative and deep. Like, it's not... I'm of the belief, even though I've done zero, I came right up here after Raw. Right after the show, we've been here. So I have not read any more other than what I know. But 4 decades of watching wrestling, you kind of get an idea how shit goes every now and then. And this does not seem like something that's a work. It would be a very weird work if it was. If it's a work, then what are they doing? Then what's the result? ultimately what you're saying here is that WWE is basically having a storyline where they're going to have a match and with a predicted winner, and then two of the participants don't want to do that finish. They're making that a storyline? No. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. But you had people thinking the Cody Rhodes shit was a work all the way up until WrestleMania. I'm like, again, this is not how shit goes. You know, it's not how WWE usually operates. They were never going to play in to something like that. And they're certainly not going to give any publicity to another wrestling promotion either. So they're pretty predictable, you know, in terms of behavior. So I think it's real easy to usually, for the most part, to know when something's a work or not. I don't think I've really ever been fooled, to be honest. You know, that Mark Henry retirement that everybody talks about is the only time I've ever been swerved. I'm like, I never thought he was retiring. There's just one reason. John Cena was standing out there the whole time. He had no business being out there if they weren't going to run an angle. I mean, if I was retiring after a long career and some fucker is in my spot, like, get the fuck out of here, man. So I was like, it's full of shit. He's horse shit. And when John Cena was attacked, I wasn't in the least bit surprised. And everybody's like, holy shit, it was a fucking swerve. And I'm like, not really. They're predictable most of the time. When have we really ever been fooled? Ever. When have we thought something was a work and it turned out to be real, or vice versa, or whatever, you know? So when it comes to stuff like this, I just think it's obvious. That's all. Oh, I loved the open challenge. That was fun. The Boogeyman versus Liv Morgan. Don't do that to her, Barry. My God. Oh, my God. Anyway, well, I think I'm going to get out of here now because I would like to find out more about this Sasha Banks situation, read up a bit on it, see if we have heard any. Oh, there's another statement by WWE. This was released 20 minutes ago. Let's see if it's the same one. Oh, it's the same one. Okay. Yeah, see here, even on their website, it's right here. Their statement is on their website talking about the match rehearsals and shit like that. We're going to find out. Maybe tomorrow we'll see a release, or, you know, maybe they actually do release them for this. Just depends on how angry WWE is about it. I mean, a better punishment would be to not release them, you know? Maybe they're both like, fuck it, we'll happily sit out 90 days and go work in AEW or whatever. So maybe WWE is going to be like, no, we're not going to let you do that either. And this is the type of stuff that having competition can affect. Because otherwise, if there was no AEW and no primary competitor to WWE, they might just be straight up fired for this, or they might not do it at all because they don't want to lose their jobs. You know, here, both of these women are in a position that regardless of what the fallout from all of this is, there will not be a break in their pay. You know, they're either going to continue working for WWE. Well, they might be fined. They're either going to continue to work for WWE and get paid, or they're going to be released and get paid by someone else. And that's a situation that will affect, hopefully, in the future, some of WWE's creative process to know that we might actually have to try with this guy or this woman, because if we don't, they're going to leave. Their contract is up in 2 years. We'd like to keep them around. So if we put them in a bunch of stupid shit, they're either not going to resign or they're going to get fed up and just mentally check out and get the hell out of here. So if WWE cares about any of their talent and keeping them happy, you do have to keep your talent happy. You know, yes, you have to do what you're told, but you shouldn't just fuck with people either. So you should try your best to make sure your talent is happy and invested in what they're doing and understands why they're doing it. And none of that seems to apply in WWE at all. They're going to do what they want. They don't give a shit about permission from anybody. So it's a mess. And I'm happy that we see these things happen now. And I'm telling you, the existence of AEW is going to allow these situations to happen maybe a little more often when a talent knows they have worth and they have value. And even if they get fired, they'll just go work over there. So that's awesome. And that applies on the other side, just as much. Could be applying to MJF as we speak. If he's not completely, totally happy with what he does in the next 18 months or however long he's got left, I think it's about 18 months, year and a half or so on his AEW contract, then, he could do the same thing and hop over to the other company. So interesting stuff and interesting times. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. That was a lot of fun. The next planned video is going to be on Wednesday night. We'll be up here doing our AEW Dynamite watch along, and then I'll be releasing my Over the Edge 1998 review sometime near the end of the week or the weekend. So shooting for Thursday, but could be Friday. Not quite sure yet. So you guys have a good rest of your Monday evening. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you in just a couple of days for Dynamite.